Let's talk crochet. Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is Slow Crochet. This is episode 089, and today I am checking in with everything that I've been crocheting and finishing this week. Now, y'all, it has been a wild week. We are in the wildest time in our family, usually between August and September. We have so many birthdays, so many celebrations, school's starting back, sports are starting back. It's just wild. So, crochet brings me joy, brings me peace. And so I just love talking about it with y'all. So let's see what I've been up to. Now, I left you guys last week with some works in progress that I was sure I was going to finish. And sure enough, I did. I did finish those. The first thing that I finished was this kind of scarflet. And I used a fingering weight yarn for this. This is Miss Bab's Yummy 2-ply fingering yarn. It's 100% superwash merino wool. It came in about 400 yards to about 4 ounces, 115 grams. It was Wild Iris, and the colorway was Tycho. I believe that's how you say it. Anyway, this was one that I picked up already caked up from my favorite local yarny thrift store. And this is my success. Doo-doo-doo. So very straightforward little triangle shape here. Really fun how those colors played out. It kind of reminds me of like a wild watermelon. It's just that very basic little scarflet, shawlette kind of situation. And now that I have this done, hopefully I'll be able to work on a tutorial once life settles down a little bit, but to do a tutorial on how I created this because it is a real fun, really straightforward design. And I really do love the effect. I love that it's nice and solid, but you do have a very gradual slope. And in the variegated yarn, it has such a fun kind of scallop effect, doesn't it? It reminds me a little bit of, what is the word? Bargello? I'll put it right here, whatever it is. That kind of wave. There's almost like a quilting technique that this reminds me of with how those colors played out. So super fun. Love that that is done. And I do have quite a bit left of this, probably at least 100 yards, I'd say. I haven't measured it to be sure, but I will have to start thinking about fingering weight scrap projects for the future. So yes, that one is done. The other thing that I want to talk to you guys about is my snowflake hat, because I was asking you for some help on how to finish it out. So thank you, first of all, for all of your wonderful suggestions. I did take them into consideration. And the two things that I ended up doing, number one, I went down a hook size. So that is such a great thing to do. I sometimes forget about doing that because I crochet so tightly, like I don't even think about hook size helping to sculpt the shape of the finished product. So I did that, and then I ended up taking out about 6 or 8 stitches just to kind of pull it back in. And then I went back around in white and blue, just alternating the colors, alternating the stitches. And then finally I did a row of single crochet right around the end. So it went from being a kind of bulbous shape to, let's see here, I'll put the seam to the side, to a nice fitted shape. Yay! It pulled it in just right. And so, yeah, I'm very happy with that result. It fits wonderfully. So thank you to everyone who was so helpful, who gave me perspective on different approaches that I could have taken to make this fit. And each approach would have given a slightly different effect, but I'm really glad that I chose this one. So thank you to everyone who made those suggestions and helped me out. And so now all I have to do is fill out the paperwork and submit things to the fair. And yeah, I need to make sure that that's on my calendar and make sure that that does indeed happen. But I'm also just trying to get through this week, one day at a time. And speaking of one day at a time, let me actually jump you back in time because I had a bit of a moment of realization. Anyway, I'll see you here in a minute. Hello, people of the future, Mary of the past here. I am wanting to keep it real, so not even in my regular yarny filming space, but here is what happened. I thought I was done with this panel, and it's beautifully symmetrical, and I think it's wonderfully made, but then I went back and I was looking at the pattern again, and I thought it was kind of funny. I thought that the pictures didn't really line up with what I had done. And I realized that this part here, this kind of top neckline, the shoulder part, before it starts decreasing down, I had read 5 centimeters and it actually said 5 inches. So I have been letting this sit for a minute, just staring at it, just not wanting to frog. One of my children and I were figuring out how long does it actually take me to do a row here, and it takes me about 3 minutes per row. So there's only like 35 rows on this, but I'm gonna have to frog all the way back to about row 3 because I know if I leave it like this, it's not going to fit right. And so what's the point of even finishing the sweater? It's always worth doing it right, always worth taking it all out and redoing it, because this is a big enough project that I'm not going to wear it if I don't have it fitting properly. So I just wanted to give a little shout out that yes, I am actually done with this panel, but but I'm gonna frog it. So hopefully you're in the future, talking to future Mary, and I have it redone and I'm on track to really knock out this sweater. So I'll catch back up with you there. Y'all, welcome back. It just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how long you've been crocheting, you can still misread a pattern, make those big oopses. Yeah, but that one was a bummer. So I did end up frogging all the way back. And this is me again. Man, I've not wanted to work on this. I went from having that whole panel done to now just a few stitches here. So slowly but surely, I am going to work my way back through on that pullover sweater. I already have some ideas of how I want to have it finished. Yeah, but I just needed to kind of get some other things going. I needed to take my focus away from that. I was really kind of bummed. But yes, we have indeed started back in on that highline sweater. So we will persist. It did take quite a bit of time to frog it all, just because there is some alpaca in this yarn and sometimes it would get snagged on itself. No matter how much, even if I was pulling vertically, it would still tend to get snagged a little bit. And that's just the nature of it. It's going to be a fluffy sweater. It's going to be wonderful. But yes, I will be continuously working on that a bit more in the future, now that I've kind of gotten over the mental block of having to frog it all. Yeah, this is going to be my next emphasis project, so to speak. In terms of starting projects for this week, there is one that I finished and started, and I actually, surprise, surprise, I need your opinion on it. So this is kind of related to something that Miss Setta is doing over at Setta's Place. She and her friend were teaming up to do something around faith-based stitches. And so that really stuck in my heart when she was talking about that. And I was thinking, what could I do specifically from a place of faith? And it just so happens that I'm in a stage of life where there are people all around me that are either having babies or they've been trying to get pregnant for a long time. And so I decided, out of faith-based stitches, thinking of those that are trying to get pregnant, I decided to make a little baby sweater. Now, I used a pattern by Drops, and I used a different hook size and I used a different yarn weight. This is actually some yarn from Hobby Lobby, from one of those boxes of yarn that I got at their clearance, some of these little packets. They have numbers on them, but they don't have color names, and so I didn't even bother. I just went with what I had. But I went with the kind of medium mauve and the lighter pink, and then down into kind of just a basic beige and like a sagey green, before going into kind of a slate blue and like a darker kind of ocean blue. So love, love, love how those colors played out. I'm holding it backwards because I was able to go through my vintage buttons and I found the most perfect buttons for the front. And here they are. Oh, I love them. But the only sad thing is, perfect as these are, and since they're vintage, I only do have maybe one, maybe two of each. They are not the right size. Y'all, when I put these in the little buttonholes, they just don't stay. The buttonholes are too big for these buttons. And so what could I do? Well, I could go back and I could unpick all of this and undo my ends that I've woven in, and I could redo the buttonholes, or I could sub out some new buttons. See, even that little green one there is just wanting to pull apart. So I don't trust that these buttons, you can see that there, I don't trust that the buttons are gonna hold up. So here's my thought. I do have two options for different buttons, but they're not as charming as the different colored ones that go along with the stripes, but they could still work. So let me know what you think. I have just your plain Jane wooden buttons here, that kind of lighter wood. And so I have 4 of these, and that would work. It's not a whole lot bigger, but it's big enough that it will make a difference. So plain wood. And then my other option are these that have kind of a floral motif printed on them. I hope you can see that. Kind of a little bit cute. They're about the same size as the regular wooden ones, maybe a little bit smaller, but not all of these are exactly the same. They're slightly different. So here's one that is slightly more blue in the background. So that's my question. I'm going to drop in some pictures right here because I would love to know your thoughts. Should I stick with just the plain wooden buttons just because the colors of this sweater are doing most of the work? Or should I go with the slightly more unusual buttons? I mean, nothing is really that focus pulling, but I would like your opinion because I would just love to know what you would do. I don't know yet who this little baby sweater is going to, but I do anticipate that there will be some answered prayers and some pregnancies in the future. In fact, I have one couple right now that years ago when we first met them, they were determined they would never have kids. And something in my heart was just like, you know what? Lord, will you do the impossible? And sure enough, in the last few years, they both have had such a change of heart, and they've started really taking some significant steps in how they approach life. And yeah, they actually want children now, and finally, the wife is pregnant. So I don't know if they're gonna have a boy or a girl. I think this would definitely be more of a girl sweater, but whether it's them, whether it's other couples that we are expecting that they will be expecting in the future, Faith-Based Stitches, here's something for them. So in anticipation of little answered prayers. And I don't know if Miss Setta, if y'all were asking us to collab with you or not, but I thought, hey, here's my heart, let me throw it out there with you, and it's just a beautiful thing. So that is almost done. Do please let me know what you think about those buttons. Okay, 2 more things that I did start. So now I have my Highline sweater, and then I have these 2 other projects. Number 1, this is some yarn that came from Miss Janna Kay over at Faith Flourish Fiber. I think that's it. If I have that wrong, I'm sorry. It's right here, y'all. I'm human. She gave me this beautiful hank of yarn, and I wanted to use it immediately. And I've seen a pattern by Crystal over at Bag a Day. I believe it's called the Olive Branch Shawl. And it's a fingering weight yarn. She uses a 4-weight, but this is how it's coming out. I'm kind of in this mode right now of using fingering weights to make little shawls or little shawlettes. And yeah, this it was such an interesting design, and I just thought it might feature that beautiful yarn really easily. So I haven't gotten that far in it. It is, I think, like a 12-row repeat, but a lot of them are pretty intuitive. So as long as you remember, most of the time you're going to chain 6, and then another time you're going to chain 7, and then you're going to chain 16, and then 15. It's only a few numbers that you have to remember. Otherwise, it's very intuitive. So that is one of the things I'm working on. This is a gorgeous yarn. I have quite a bit of it left. It is Yarnables, and this colorway is Grow with the Flow. It's 437 yards or 100 grams. It's a plush sock, which is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. And so yeah, it has all these wonderful kind of autumnal, kind of the colors of corn, if you think about it, like the green of the plants as they grow, and then either the white or the yellows, or the kind of darker tones as autumn comes on and everything starts to kind of die back. So love this yarn. Love how it's coming together. I think it's going to block out really beautifully. And although this is not going to make a huge shawl, it'll be a nice little shawlette, just something small to go around the neck. For this one, because it's a crystal pattern, if I have a hero hook to use when I'm working on a crystal pattern, I do try to do that. I do have a hero size F hook. I think that's a 3.75. Could be wrong, but it's a hero F. And that is what I'm using on that pattern. And the other thing that I'm working on is the Crochet It For You shawl, which I already have. This is one that I made out of a worsted weight yarn. I think this was Touch of Alpaca, perhaps. Absolutely love this pattern. Love, love, love it. And I've been wondering what would this look like in a lighter weight yarn. So from my local Yarny thrift store, I have a mystery purple cake here in what I presume is either a cotton, but it's definitely a fingering, super thin. But here is that shawl as I'm working it up in that smaller weight yarn. For this one, I'm using a size D hook. This is one of my vintage boys, so I'll have to put the millimeterage here. But yes, super fine, but also a very wonderful rhythmic piece to work on. And in this shawl and this yarn, the colors are a really deep, kind of reddish undertoned purple, and also kind of like a gray undertone in with that red. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of a grayish mulberry purple. So love, love, love that. And this is something that I can work on when I am just sitting and waiting in line for something, or if I'm at a sports practice of something. It's not so big that it's gonna be hard to travel with, and it's not heavy, so it'll be okay even in the humidity and the heat. Y'all, so that is what I have been working on this week in crochet. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Do again let me know what you think on those buttons. Maybe I am overthinking it, but I do want to make sure that this gift eventually will be able to be well used. So the regular wooden buttons or the kind of floral wooden buttons. Would love to hear your opinions there. Thank you again for everyone who helped me out with deciding what to do on the hat. Thank you for all of your encouragement. Thank you to all of my subscribers, old and new. I do appreciate that. Y'all have wanted to come spend some time with me today. It really does make me happy just being able to talk about what I've been crocheting and relate all of my little yarny adventures with you. It is such a pleasure being part of your lives. Thank you to everyone who comments and likes, subscribes and shares, does all those kinds of YouTube-y stuff. All of that is not necessary, but it's super encouraging, and it really does make it a lot more fun to get to interact with y'all. If I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye!